So my name is McKaylee Duquain. I'm the GIS and Inventory Forester with MTE. I run the inventory department here, and what the inventory department does here is we take inventory of the forest. Typically, as far as forests go, we tend to clump them into stands, and that's kind of, okay, this is kind of like each other. So like, oh, here's an area where there's a bunch of aspen in it. Here's an area where it's clearly a bunch of old pine that are from about the same age. And sometimes the stands get kind of, there's not always like a definitive edge in between the stand edges. But I mean, that's us as foresters, that's the decision we make when it's not so much a science but more of an art. We are the ones in inventory who make stand edge adjustments and edits. You know, we might walk through an area and say, well, it's not as much of that species that it says, you know, the data says, you know, oh, there might be a little bit of a pine component in here, we better adjust that. Or, oh, if I adjust the stand, then I can like add a stand, get rid of a stand, make this one bigger and this one smaller. So that's kind of what we do, and like I said, to monitor it. So in addition to not just the general stand history, we also have like a whole schedule of what gets logged and when it gets logged. And then again, that is one of the things that kind of tells us, that's what prioritizes what does get stand examined, is what is going to be logged typically. And from there, we'll set up marking units. And so then the order of things goes, we find the marking unit, usually about a year in advance. So like right now we should be looking at things from like that should be getting harvested for 2022. So initially we go in first to do stand exam. So in the grand scheme of logging and investigating different areas of the forest, we're basically the first boots on the ground. We do about one plot for every 10 acres, and it's really preliminary data that we do. We'll look at a stand if it hasn't been looked at in 5 or more years, especially if it's up for logging. The compartment's 307, the stand is stand number 10. There's 2 ways of doing this. Either you can just go out with a string that's measured, you know, 11.7, and then there's also this. So this is called a hypsometer. So what it does is, from where this is to where that is, I don't know, what does it use? Sound waves? Yeah. So it uses sound waves to give you a distance. You just aim at it. So then it says SD, I think that means spatial distance, I might be wrong, 10.8. So from here to there runs 10.8 feet away. Yeah, so anything in this radius is considered the regen plot, which it doesn't seem to make much sense for this, but it would if we were over just a little bit where there's like the thick patch of that regen over there, it would make perfect sense for it. And then especially in the summertime when this is leafed up and you have a hard time seeing, and because this is through the sound, you just have to aim in its general direction. .3, so you have to scooch back by like 6 inches. So like that little guy's right on the edge, but it's in. So anyways, what's the regen look like? Like two ash?
Yeah.
I think I just saw 2 ash.
Yep. Class 1.
So this is the regen. Back to the regen. We have to enter in a species code, which for ash, I believe is 541. Yeah. So species code, or you can just go to this drop down menu and select it, either or. Count, so we had 2 of them. And then we have 3 classes, and it just depends on their diameter. So class 1, which is your most often, is, what is it?
Class 1 is our highest density region.
What's the size on it though?
It's usually go from waist.
So it's got to be 3 feet?
So it's got to be at least 3 feet high, and then up to, I think it's 1.5 inches diameter.
It's on your stick. So class 1 is 2 inches, class 2 is 2 to 4 inches, and class 3 is 4 to 5.5. Anything 5.5 bigger is classified as Yeah, it's pole timber. Now there's two types of plots. I feel like I've discussed this with you before. There's fixed area plot, which is like the regen plot, but on a much larger scale. The regen plot is 11.7 feet in radius. A fixed plot would be 52.4. Yeah, 52.4 feet in radius, and you would count all the trees within that radius, and that's technically 1/5 of an acre. But what we do is variable, and there's a couple ways of doing it. Here we have the VA stick. So then what you do is you hold it up to your chin, and then you swing it around. And any tree that's, when you look down this, any tree that's wider than this clip is considered in. So if you have a small tree up close, it's probably going to be in. That same small tree further away is not going to be in. But then if you have a big tree that's farther away, it'll be in. So then say you have 10 trees in a plot, that's going to be 100 square foot of basal area. It's not super exact, but it's exact enough for us to work.
Yeah, we're doing plots. We're doing, looking for precision measurements. We're looking for, we've got to be efficient in our time when we get out here and do our work. So we use these tools that get us there. She tells me that tree is in. It's in the plot based on our basal area measurement of 10. We'll use the stick to see if the tree's in. We'll use the stick to see the diameter. So the measurement she wants is the diameter of the tree and the species of the tree. Sugar maple, 12-inch,
Again, the species code or the drop-down menu, either or, but we want sugar maple. And he said
22.
Oh, it's on 22. So then it automatically adds here. So then you have sawlog, pulp, color, snag. Where ours is sawlog, but it already automatically added for us. And then you save it. And we just do that all the way around. And then once we get that preliminary data, like I said, we walk around in there, kind of field check it. Then we do a lot of GIS work. And that's the other main component of this department. Then we make our edits, and then we pass it along to the silviculturalist and or the harvest prep forester. And then from there, they take our initial data that we collected. Like I said, it's not super detailed information, but it's enough to have an idea of what's going on in the stand. And from there, the harvest prep forester or the silviculturalist will look at it and decide there's not enough trees in here. Let's give it another 5 years. They can send it back to us. We update the stand's information, and then 5 years down the road, the little flag comes up and says, hey, this stand is due to be managed. Or sometimes it says, oh, there was, last time it was harvested, we did this in there, but now, a different species kind of became more prominent. Let's adjust it and do a different prescription for it. So that's those guys. And then eventually, like I said, they're called marking units. Eventually the crew goes in and marks it, usually is what it is. And then after that, the harvest prep forester tumbles through there and then ends up getting harvested. And then after it gets harvested, and as it's getting harvested, then it goes over to timber harvest administration. Once it's done harvested and the timber, or then the THA, then once they're all done with it, they wrap it up and they let us know, hey, these guys are done logging in here. It comes in a roundabout way, circular fashion, comes back to us, and then we update the information in our GIS.